Alright guys, let's take a look at this crazy bike right here. This is actually a Honda Goldwing. Look at the new Honda Goldwing. Looks nothing like previous Honda Goldwings. And I'm going to take this thing for a test drive. Take a look at that thing. That is pretty wild. Look at the engine on this. It's kind of like a flat, low engine. And this one happens to have the DCT, which is the automatic transmission. Alright, so the guy gave me a little demo on how to actually start this up. So you actually turn it on here, turn it on here. Oh yeah, no clutch, no shifter. You put it in drive right here, and it says it is in drive, and we're in tour mode. And last time I drove one of these, I actually accidentally hit the little paddle shifter right here, and I got stuck in a lower gear. I couldn't get up. And the guy said all you have to do is hit drive again, and it'll actually, whoa. First impression. This is really super sensitive. The throttle is super sensitive. I barely even touched it, and this thing just jumped right off the start. And he showed me where the button is. Check this out. We can actually lower the windscreen and increase the windscreen. How nice is that? Wow. This bike, this is super comfy. I've never been on a bike as comfortable as this one. All right, let me see if I can figure out the brakes. Let's actually come to our first stop. Got the front brake, the rear brake. All right, I have to really be careful on this throttle. And it has a nice, super upright position. Wow, it is, I can't even feel those bumps. It is just like, it is literally like driving a car. All right, let me see if I can get my blinkers. Got my yield sign here. Oh, this bike is super smooth around the corners, super stable, which is pretty wild. So today is a really windy day. As a matter of fact, I think we might hit some rain because on the way down it was raining, and I pulled up to the shop, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna do this test drive or not. Wow, it is like rock solid on the road. This thing is a beast. I've never driven a motorcycle so solid on the road as this one. It is amazing. It's like you can't even feel the bumps at all on the road. So there's quite a bit of, oh, that's interesting. So I put the windscreen up. It definitely changes the dynamics. There's a little bit of kind of buffeting, just a little bit, where it's not really clean wind. It's like randomly pulsing wind, but it's not like, you know, your head's in a paint can or anything like that, which is pretty wild. This bike is super stable. It's kind of interesting. Some people are saying, all right, so on your motorcycles, rate your motorcycles from 1 to 10 as far as everything on the bike. Back brake works pretty good. Front brake works pretty good. Both together, pretty good. So I'd say the brakes are not super touchy. It's a really, you grab the brake, you have to put a little bit of pressure in the brake. I'd say it's just about the perfect brake on the front and the back. And people are saying, hey, you should rate the brakes and everything on a scale of 1 to 10. The problem is so far I haven't driven 10 motorcycles yet. So that is pretty wild. I think I prefer the windscreen just down a little bit, get a little bit more air coming up through. No clutch, no shifter. And this thing's got some serious power too. Yet it is super quiet. One of the quietest bikes. And this one, you actually, let's gun it a little bit. So that's kind of interesting. All right, so I want to put the windscreen up again. I don't know how the audio is going to come out. I prefer the windscreen down and a little bit of air, but I don't know how the audio is going to come out. I could definitely feel those bumps. It gets a little bit bumpy in here. All right, so I take it back. It's not the perfect suspension. Well, I'd say it's about, I don't know. It gets pretty rough up in here as far as the suspension, but let me tell you, when I hit those bumps, I can definitely feel it kind of in my gut and kind of, I know when I think it seemed like the Honda 1100 had a better suspension out here on kind of the bumpy part of the road. But of course that was a lighter bike, and a lot of times you can actually dial in the suspension, so it's really hard to judge it because, so keep in mind, I'm actually 6'4" and I weigh 230 pounds. So the suspension dynamics is totally different. One thing I do not like about this bike, right up front, take a look at this. My knee hits right here, like almost all the way back in the seat, and my knee's hitting on here. I'd say 6'4" is probably the maximum height that you could comfortably ride this bike. Any more than that and you're gonna have a problem with your knee right there, which is kind of interesting. And it's kind of interesting on the pegs, it has like a flat peg instead of a round peg, which seems a little bit more comfortable. I'm getting used to the throttle. You have to be really careful. I don't know, it seemed like that 1100 was almost quicker than this. I think because it was I don't know, it's got a lot of power, but it's not like scary power like that 1100. I think that the Honda 1100 Rebel was it just felt so quick because it was a smaller bike, lower to the ground, and I think it was a lighter weight, had more power for a lighter weight. But yeah, it's not really a problem for my knees at all. So my knees aren't hitting right now. It's only when I get on the brake, on the foot brake, that my knees actually hit. So as far as any vibration in the handlebars, zero, none at all. This is super, super stable on the highway. You can definitely feel the bumps when they're there, but when there's no bumps, it is super stable and super smooth. Probably the smoothest ride other than the bumps that I've had on any motorcycle so far. So you know, I've only driven just a few. I'd say probably, you know, some of your sport bikes probably have a slightly better suspension. Like it seemed like the Pan America was really super stable on the bumps. Of course, on that bike, you definitely have to be like, you know, at least 6 foot tall to ride this. I'd say you could be pretty much any height on this one in order to be comfortable in this. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go up on that highway right there. You kind of have to go kind of the back way around to get up on the highway. And I want to see how this handles at 65 miles an hour. Yeah, I can definitely feel those bumps on this one. So it almost seems like it's not really designed, really not designed for the bumps, but when there's almost, you know, like minimal bumps, let me see if I can find the blinkers. Here, go to the right. So just a little bit of brake, I can feel my knee touching on the fairing or the tank or whatever that is. And then I'm gonna have to go get out of this lane. Yeah, this is definitely a smooth, super stable ride. As far as the, you know, the stability on the road, it is rock solid. You're not drifting at all. You just feel so planted on this thing. It's pretty amazing. And it's a very upright position, super upright. It's almost like you're sitting in a chair, just really super upright. And it actually feels pretty good. And the seat is really super comfortable. My feet are pretty much right below me, slightly in front of, let me see if I get my blinker here. Wow, it really, you can lean into the corners, but you really feel confident in those sharp corners like that. It's pretty amazing. I've never felt so confident in the corners versus this bike. This is like super nice in the corners and not hard to get used to at all. I'd say this is, you can feel a little bit of engine vibration, maybe the transmission vibration going through second gear maybe. So I'm hitting the rear brake. I can feel my knee just barely touching. Let me tell you, you do not want to be taller than 6'4" if you have this bike like this. Ooh, you actually have a red light here. Oh, so it looks like we're hitting like traffic rush hour here. So we might not get up to 65. We'll be lucky to get as fast as we're going. I was hoping to get like highway speeds on this one, but it's not looking too good for this one. Let's see, maybe just on this little exit. I don't know how fast we can go on this one. We're going, all right, so we're going 60, 65, pretty smooth. All right, all right, we're that was it on the shoulder. An emerge lane. All right, I think that's our 65. I felt a little bit of vibration, a little bit of buzziness in the handles, which is kind of interesting. So I actually ride my Harley Davidson Dyna Street Bob. It's an 07, and I don't really feel that vibration in my Harley Davidson. As a matter of fact, even with the Pan America, which is kind of like the Harley Davidson sport touring bike, I didn't feel that much buzziness in the handlebars. Just a little bit, almost a little bit of vibration coming up, and it seems like it's pretty prevalent through a lot of your Hondas. Yeah, you can kind of feel the, I don't know if you can hear that, the kind of the pulsing wind, kind of the random little bit more wind turbulence. It's not like a smooth wind. You definitely stay out of the wind. Doesn't really bobble your head around as far as the wind. Of course, it is pretty windy. If you look over at the lake over there, you can see it's kind of, the waters are a little bit choppy. So we're actually going to take this Morrison exit here. Not really the highway speed I was shooting for. When I usually come up on this highway to do the test drives to see how they do on the highway. And on this one, yeah, we'll be lucky to hit 50 miles an hour on this one. Maybe we can get up. So we're going 50 now. You know what it is? This is kind of interesting. So the buzziness in my handlebars seems only to be there when I'm giving it gas. So it is 100% coming from the engine. Nothing at all. I wish I could go a little bit faster up this, but even if I keep going up this highway, I don't think we're gonna go any faster. We'll probably be better off going up Morrison Road on the way back to see if we can hit some higher speeds up that way. So pretty interesting bike. So yeah, if I put the windscreen down, there's a little bit. Yeah. So when I hit the rear brake, if I hit the rear and the front at the same time, it stops really fast. Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. Man, going around the corners with this thing, it is so solid and so planted around the corners. That's one thing about my Harley Davidson Street Bob is around the corners. I have a really skinny tire and really bad front suspension on the front end. And on that one, it seems like going around corners, not very stable at all. Versus this thing, it's like rock solid. The most solid corners on any motorcycle that I've ever driven, which is pretty amazing. So right now we're going 60. Let me see if I get used to this. You have to press a little bit harder on the handlebars than other motorcycles. It's hard to just jump on a bike and get used to the ergonomics and everything. All right, so we're going 65 now. So when I give it gas at 65, the little bit of buzziness, not too bad in the handlebars. And when I let off the gas, zero vibration in the handlebars. A little bit of road damage here, you can definitely feel it. But just this little minor, you can see like the lines going back and forth. You can't even really, can't feel them at all. Smooths it right out. So it seems like with the suspension, you have, just for the little bumps, it dominates the little bumps. But on the really big bumps, you can kind of feel the bigger bumps on this one. You could definitely cruise some serious miles on the highway. As far as my knee hitting the fairing, unless I hit the brake, I don't have a problem at all. So just, you know, cruising on the highway, going down the road, you know, 6'4", you have no problem at all. As far as the seat is really super comfortable so far. No pain on my rear end. You know, sometimes my tailbone hurts, and on certain bikes I have, you know, it kind of cuts into my sciatic a little bit. This one seems really comfortable, no problem at all as far as any problems with the seat. It's definitely a different position because I'm sitting more upright than I've probably ever sat on any motorcycle, which is surprisingly really comfortable, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, I feel like I could just take this thing on a ride across country. I mean, I think that's what the Goldwings are really for, just cruising across country. And boy, the stability in the turns is second to none. It is unbelievable how solid this thing is on the turns. You could really lean it over. I'd say that's probably the number one best thing on this is the turns. And it's kind of interesting if you look at the suspension on this. I'd say it's really good. You could cruise down the highway really good, but you know, some of your it seems like some of your sport adventure bikes might have a little bit of an advantage because they have a kind of a larger range of suspension, where this one seems really short, but for the short amount of suspension that it does have, it seems like it's really good. As a matter of fact, you could probably adjust the suspension. It's probably a little bit rough because I'm really heavy, and I'm probably taxing the suspension more than it's used to. So this thing, this is kind of interesting. Take a look at the suspension. I don't know if you can see that right in there. If I can move the camera down a little bit, but it has those little things moving up and down right there. That's pretty wild. You can see the suspension. I can see if you stuck your hand in there, you might get squashed sticking your hand in there. All right, so yeah, I could definitely feel it on my knee. Pressing the rear brake again. So that's the one thing I don't like on this bike. Is you definitely, I'd say, I don't know, 6'4" is probably the maximum you want to be on this one. So I do like the adjustable windscreen, especially if you're moving at slower speeds. You can kind of bring it down and get more wind in your face versus, you know, in a lot of bikes, especially like right now when it's like almost 90 degrees out. It is super hot out here. I wish it would rain a little bit because it is super hot. And being so hot, it'd be nice to actually, let me see. Oh, this is interesting. Looks like my gas gauge is blinking right down by E. It's like, it seems like every bike I'm on, we're almost running out of fuel. Or I was actually on that electric bike and we were like down to the last few volts. That said battery warning, you're gonna run out of juice. It seems like every single bike I'm on is about ready to run out. And kind of the weirdest thing is it doesn't have a clutch. It just looks really weird right here with no clutch lever and no shifter down here on my foot. And I'd say just the other thing that I wish it had something a little bit better is the rear brakes don't seem to be as sensitive as they could be. It seems like the rear brake could actually be a little bit better than it is. But boy, that throttle. Whew. The throttle is so sensitive. You just turn the throttle like 1/8 of an inch and it just jumps right off the line, which is pretty amazing. All right, so I got to get off this road here. Let's see. So actually, last time I turned on Kipling, that's the wrong way to go. I actually want to go up to one more street up to Wadsworth. So this is actually, I actually am using this bike from Peak World Honda. All right, let me move up this windscreen a little bit. I don't know if it's if you can hear all that turbulence when the windscreen's down, but it's definitely a difference having the windscreen down and up. So yeah, this is the third bike I've taken for a test drive from Peak World Honda in Denver, Colorado, and they actually get credit for you for taking this for a test drive. So they really want you to take these demos on test drives, which is pretty awesome. And I actually went into another dealer. So this is kind of a funny story. I actually went into this is the first time I went into, it was BMW and Indian. And I went in there looking for, a test drive. I really wanted to test drive the GS 1200, which is the competitor to the Pan America and the Honda African Twin. And believe it or not, they said they would only give test drives if you were serious about buying the motorcycle and like we're sitting down doing the paperwork. It's just like a confirmation test drive. Otherwise, you couldn't do a test drive. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous because, how in the world, it's like, just to be fair, I'm not going to buy this bike. I'm not going to do a test drive because I'm not 100% sure I want to drive the bike. And a lot of times you get on these bikes, and sometimes it's like, the ergonomics are really awful. Sometimes you're sitting in a weird position. Sometimes the seat cuts into the sciatic nerve or your tailbone, or, there's not enough power or something. And there's always something with a motorcycle. You're just not going to, look at a bike and instantly fall in love and then buy it and then, oh, by the way, let's do a confirmation test drive. It's just not practical because it seems like every single bike that I've taken for a test drive, there's pros and cons, and you have to weigh the pros and cons as far as what you want in a motorcycle. I've yet to find a bike that is perfect all the way around. All right, so here is Wadsworth. Let's see if we can get back to where we started here. The blinker is on. There's no clutch, no shift lever. The back brake, you really have to hit the back brake a lot harder than on some bikes, which is kind of hard to get used to. And the other thing about this is, I'm used to riding Harley Davidsons where it's so loud, everybody's looking at your bike. And this one is just so quiet, it looks like you sneak up on people. Especially, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of the camp that, loud pipes save lives. So every time I come up to an intersection, I give it a little gas, and everyone in the intersection knows that I'm coming up on a motorcycle because they can hear me before they can see me. And on this one, this is so quiet. It's almost like it's not even running. If I wasn't sitting on this bike, I could feel the little bit of vibration in this bike. I would say you probably wouldn't even know that this thing was turned on. It is so super quiet. All right, so I'm gonna go. Yeah, so starting from the stop. I don't know why it just seems a little bit unstable because it's just a really big heavy bike. But the interesting thing about this bike is it's really heavy, but you actually have all the weight really low. It has the flat boxer engine with all the weight really low. So even though it's a really big bike, it doesn't really feel as heavy even as my Dyna Street Bob, which has the V-twin, which has a lot of weight up on the top. All right, so I actually found a little kind of a workaround for braking. I can move my knee out from the side of the bike and use the rear brake, and then that seems like it keeps my knee from hitting like right here, or it kind of hits right in there. It's kind of interesting. I wish this was up like another 2 inches right here, so you can actually clear that for really tall people. What seems like, I don't know, it seems like a bad design. It's kind of interesting. It seems like some bikes are designed for taller people, some bikes are designed for shorter people. This one seems like it's designed for just about anyone, except for the super tall. And I know a lot of you, let me get on a little bit. Woo, this thing's got some power. Woo, that'll take your breath away. Wow, there's a lot of power with almost no sound. You can hear it at all. Of course, I have a full face helmet on, which is pretty wild. Whew. This thing, yeah, that thing has got some power. Wow. I don't think you could lift the front wheel on this. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, you're taking off so fast to where the front wheel's getting light. It just, I don't know, it might have traction control to keep you from really feeling that. Yeah, the other thing on this bike that's kind of interesting, having the DCT, which is short for dual clutch transmission, just another version of the automatic transmission, is on this particular model, if you let off the gas, you don't have that really severe engine braking like you do on some bikes. So for example, I actually took the Harley Davidson Livewire, the electric motorcycle. That thing was a trip to drive, and on that one, that had an automatic transmission, and when you let off the gas completely, it would actually brake like you had full brakes, which I think it was a little bit harder to control because you had like the gas and the brake all in your right hand, you know, twisting or letting go of the throttle. And on this one, so if I give it gas and then let go, if I let go of the throttle, it does have a little bit of engine braking, but not as much as maybe a little bit after it thinks about it for a second. It kind of kicks in maybe a little bit afterwards, but it doesn't have the engine braking that I've seen in a lot of your automatic transmissions, which I kind of like, not having that much engine braking on this one. And the other thing on this is in full gear with my black leather and my black gloves at a standstill. It is sweltering hot, 90 degrees, especially here in the sun. The other thing that's kind of interesting too on this one is you really can't feel the heat of the engine because the engine's all the way up front, and you really can't, you don't have your legs next to the hot engine. Just the way it's designed, it seems like a better design, especially for the hottest part when you're sitting still and not moving. So that's kind of interesting. Another thing a lot of people have always complained about the Goldwings is all the buttons. And on this one, it doesn't seem like there's too many buttons. It seems like with a little bit of instruction, you can actually kind of get used to the buttons on this one. Let me see if I can pull over here. Blinker, turn. I love the turn on this. I absolutely love turning on this thing. It's kind of interesting. There's another rider over there on a smaller bike. It's always interesting to see what other people are riding. So I was talking to the sales guy, and he said the price on this is about $25,000 for the brand new 2021 Honda Goldwing with the DCT transmission. So not too bad. He said they don't go much above that, where, you know, like the high-end Harley Davidsons that go all the way up to, oh, that was weird. So I actually turned the throttle all the way as much as I could, and there was like no response for like 2 seconds, and then it downshifted and kicked in, which was kind of unexpected. I think it was because I have it in touring mode and it didn't expect me to all of a sudden give it full throttle. But I just thought that was a little bit different. You know, sometimes I was just giving a little more, and I was all the way, and nothing really happened. Almost no throttle at all, which was kind of unexpected. Usually you get a lot more response going fast and hitting the throttle that much. So yeah, that back brake, yeah, definitely have to work the front brake with the back brake, and a tall guy like me, I have to move my leg out a little bit. Takes a little bit of getting used to. But yeah, it looks like it has speakers. Looks like the gas is still blinking. Hopefully we don't, end up pushing this somewhere. That would be awful. I took it for a test drive and we got stranded. That would be a story. I've yet to run out of gas on one of these motorcycles. All right, let's see if I can figure out how to get back to the shop here without my GPS. So would I buy this bike? I would definitely think about buying this bike if I was doing a lot of highway riding. I would definitely think about buying a bike like this. Super quiet, super comfortable, super stable in the turns. And on this road, it's literally like you're floating on glass. Let me see. All right, I don't think we turn yet. See if I can figure out where to turn. Oh, that was kind of weird too. So it actually downshifted from second to first, and it almost sounded like a Harley Davidson clunk, like it was, on Harley Davidsons. When you're actually shifting, you definitely can hear the clunk, which was kind of unexpected on such a smooth bike. I think it's because the engine's so quiet and everything's so quiet, you can hear every little thing that the bike is doing. The other cool thing is the navigation. As a matter of fact, if I was watching the navigation, I could have probably got back. All right, so this is where we turn. Yeah, the power and the smoothness of this bike is unbelievable. I'd say this one, I feel more confident on this bike than probably any other bike I've ridden, except when it comes to slow speeds. I don't know if it's just that I'm not used to the slower speeds on this one, but it just seems like slower speeds are a little bit more challenging. On this one, I don't know what it is, but it is a pretty awesome bike. Definitely one of my favorites. You can definitely feel the bumps, the bigger bumps like that, but when it comes to the highway and the small bumps, it's just like glass. It's unbelievable. I'd say it doesn't do good on the really big bumps, but on the smaller ones, definitely super smooth like glass. So let's see if I can turn this thing around. It just seems like I'm having a hard time doing slow speeds on this. I don't know why. All right, so I'm gonna park it here and get some B-roll on this pretty awesome bike. So in order to turn it off here, and turn it off. Well, you're actually supposed to kill it with the kill switch here, then turn it off here. The other thing is, if you put the kickstand down, that turns off the bike too. But wow, look at that thing. That thing is wild looking. I like the aerodynamics of the new Goldwing. It doesn't even look like a Goldwing. It looks completely different than if you look at some of the old Goldwings. So there you have it, guys. 2021 Goldwing with a dual clutch transmission, automatic transmission. This is actually an 1800. That's why it was so fast. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.